Hi, Mason. This is Nana. I've got an Easter book for you this time. Actually, I've got a couple of them for you. So I hope you enjoy this. It's called 9 Rabbits and Another. One night in early spring, as the rabbit family began getting ready for bed, they heard a knock, knock, knock at their little grass-green door. Mr. Rabbit said, "Someone is there." "Who do you think it is?" whispered the 7 little rabbits. "Is it company or a strange wild animal?" Their father told them, "I will go myself and see." So he walked across the floor, thump, thump, thump in his garden shoes, and opened the door a crack. There stood a tall, scraggly rabbit with bent-over whiskers and kind, tired eyes. His ears looked wilted. His suit was old, and he had no hat. On his arm, he carried a big basket with its cover fastened down. "Good evening," said Mr. Rabbit. "Good evening," said the scraggly one. "You couldn't take me in for the night, could you? I have come a long way and I still have far to go." "We haven't an extra single bed, I'm sorry to say," Mr. Rabbit told him. "You can see for yourself how many there are of us. My wife and myself and 7 children. That makes 9. Our house is full, just plumb full." The tall, scraggly rabbit scratched his head and looked up at the sky. "That's bad news for me," he said. "It looks like wet weather, and I am tired way down to my toes. But if you don't mind, I would just like to lie down in your little front yard. You have some nice dry grass to stretch out on. Are you sure you'll be all right?" "Oh, yes, thank you. Good night." "Good night," said the rabbit family together. They had all been watching and listening, and when the door was shut, Mrs. Rabbit said, "Poor thing." "Yes, it's too bad," said Mr. Rabbit. "But what else could we do? We are quite crowded as it is. 9 rabbits in this small house. Another one, that's just too many." The children ran to the window. "Now he's lying down," they said. "He's put his head on a stone." Their mother thought a minute. Then she told them, "I do think he'd be more comfortable with a pillow. I can spare mine." She took it right out to him. "Why, thank you," he said. "Now my head will be as cozy as a bird in a nest." Mrs. Rabbit looked pleased. "That was very kind of you, my dear," Mr. Rabbit said when she came back into the house. The children were still watching from the window. "Now he's scattering grass all over his legs," they said. "Only not enough. His long feet stick out." The smallest rabbits giggled at this, but the older ones said, "Don't laugh. He's a poor scraggly rabbit without a bed." "Grass really doesn't make a very good cover," said their father. "I have 3 blankets on my bed. I could spare one." So he got a nice thick blanket with pink fuzz all over it and took it out to the rabbit in the yard. The scraggly rabbit sat up so suddenly that the grass scattered in all directions. "Why, thank you," he said. "Now I shall be as snug as the root of a tree." Mr. Rabbit was smiling when he went back into the house. "That was very nice of you, dear," said his wife. Then the children called out, "Oh, it has begun to rain. Drops are coming down on his face, and he is wrinkling his nose and opening and shutting his eyes. May we take the big red umbrella out to him?" "That's very thoughtful of you, my bunnies," their mother told them. "Hurry it right out to him," said their father. So the 7 little bunnies rushed out the door in a clump, carrying the big red umbrella. The scraggly rabbit put it right up. "Thank you," he said. "Now my face will be as dry as a pebble under a mushroom." When the little bunnies came back into the house, they looked delighted. "Now he is all fixed for the night," said Mr. Rabbit, "with a pillow and a blanket and an umbrella." But while they watched, the scraggly rabbit dropped the umbrella. The rain dribbled down on his face. The family all hurried to the door and called out, "The umbrella! The umbrella! You let go of it!" The scraggly rabbit opened his eyes quickly. "Why, so I did," he said. "But how can I remember to keep on holding the handle when I go to sleep?" None of the family knew what to say to this. Then Mrs. Rabbit suggested, "Why don't you come in and sleep on our floor in front of the fire? There is a good thick rug, and you can still use the pillow and the blanket. And in the house you will not need the umbrella at all," smiled Mr. Rabbit. So very soon, the rabbit family's company was stretched out on the floor, with his basket beside him. He looked up at them happily and said, "Now I'm as nicely fixed as a turtle in a shell. I know I shall have a good night's rest. Thank you." "You are very welcome," said the family all together, with a bow and a smile. Then they all went to sleep. Soon the little house was quiet. There was just the sound of the fire dying down and the rain on the roof. But when the family got up in the morning, their company was gone. The pink fuzzy blanket was neatly folded up. The pillow was on a chair. "But why didn't he say goodbye?" asked the little rabbits, looking disappointed. "Well, he probably had to leave early. He said he still had a long way to go, and he didn't want to disturb us," their mother told them. "But he might have said thank you." "Oh, he did that," said their father. "Why, he thanked us very nicely for each thing that we did for him." "Well, he might have left a note or something," said the next to the littlest rabbit. But just then the very littlest rabbit gave a happy cry. "He did leave something! Look, on the mantel!" And there on the shelf above the fireplace was a row of 9 lovely little green baskets, all tied with yellow bows, and each one was filled with candy eggs. Mr. Rabbit looked surprised. "Why, that fellow was the most famous rabbit in all the land, the Easter Bunny himself." "And we didn't even suspect," said Mrs. Rabbit. "We could have asked him in right away if only we had known," said the oldest little rabbit. Mrs. Rabbit smiled. "It was better this way. I am glad we made him cozy by our fire," she said. Later on, they sat down to eat the eggs that the Easter Bunny had left. The littlest rabbit of them all took one little rabbit nibble and clapped his paws happily. He said, "Isn't this candy just dandy spandy?" The other little rabbits, who were much too busy to talk, just smiled, which meant that they certainly agreed. Well, that's the story of 9 rabbits and another. I hope you liked it. See you next time. Love you.